So let's say that you're a filmmaker. Let's say that you have made a movie with a couple of good actors and you have a kind of fun script, stuff like that. And you film it, you know, music to it and all that stuff. And well, it's all set to be released. But then the movie studio decides, well, we know what's best because we're the fucking movie studio. So they decide to recut it in their own image. What happens then usually is turned into a bad movie. And Daniel Craig, Rachel Weisz and Jim Sheridan, who directed this movie, decided that they were not going to do any promotion about it or stuff like that. The movie became a sort of box office failure. It was a dud in the box office, didn't make any waves at all. But the question remains, has a movie studio taken away a movie from a director, you know, made it into their own, and being denounced by the director, and then the movie is actually really, really good? I can't come up with a movie that is good just at thinking about it. I think there have been movies that have been okay, I think, but this one is not going to be, one of these great movies or stuff like that. You can already guess that from my little opening spiel here. But Daniel Craig has said that the movie wasn't very good, but he met his wife during the shooting of the movie and they got married, and so that's a fair trade. And considering that they have been married for 10 years or something like that, I would say good for you, Daniel. Let's see how this movie pans out. This is Dreamhouse. So Daniel Craig plays this publisher called Will. Will has just bought a house in New England. This is a house in which he is aimed to work a little less, be a little more with his family, and subsequently taking in time they've missed together. So him, Rachel Weisz, and his daughter moves in there, and everybody's kind of happy except the neighbor, who seems to be a bit hostile to good old Will, and seems a little bit startled that he's there. Why? Well, we'll see soon. But living in his dream house turns out to not be the dream that Will hopes for his family, because there are sightings of a strange man that seems to be lurking outside the house, and the ghost from South Park has invaded their basement and doing stuff. And he thinks that it is because the house has memories over what happened about around 5 years ago, where a man killed his entire family. Is that man the man who's lurking outside? Because he has apparently been released from the loony bin, which he has spent 5 years in because of insignificant evidence. Will starts to conduct his own investigation of the matter, since the local police officers doesn't seem to want to help him. They're not even that interested or that very polite about it. They don't want to help him at all. The only person who really seems to take a liking to Will and want to help him is their neighbor, played by Naomi Watts. What are you doing here, Naomi? And I'm not going to say anything more about the plot of this movie. Mainly because here comes the art of marketing. I saw accidentally the trailer for this one, and whoever assembled this trailer should be whipped. Then have his family been whipped, and then being whipped by his family, because holy heckins, this is a terrible trailer. Why? Because they spoil one of the major swerves in this movie. It is such a big twist that this one should really have been, one of the focus points of the movie. This is a thing that should have made the movie really, whoa! But now we know it. This happens fairly early in the movie, a third in, but you could have still worked around it. If I hadn't seen this trailer, maybe I would have been nicer to this movie, but we'll never know. You can't unsee it if you've seen the trailers. Now, let's picture this. You're going to a restaurant, a, not very good restaurant, that looks greasy and unappealing and, cheap and a little bit ramshackled, and you're ordering a burger, and you're getting a burger. Now the burger has soggy breads and dry meat and looks kind of, you know, cosmetically unpleasing. But then you're discovering, there is a really fantastic truffle sauce here as a little dip there. And there is a half of a lobster here. What the fuck is going on here? Because this movie started off looking like a bad Blumhouse haunted house horror movie. You know, that they made a dime a dozen of. Directed by some asshats and, you know, starring not who's who of acting, but who's that. And here you have one of the 5 greatest actresses working at that point, Rachel Weisz, and in my opinion the greatest actor who has portrayed James Bond. Not the best James Bond, that's Sean Connery, but the best actor who has acted as James Bond. And Naomi Watts is also here and is pretty good. It's like, this is weird. And Jim Sheridan, who directed this movie, has, you know, directed In the Name of the Father and My Left Foot, so he's not a slouch. And this is not exactly a haunted house horror movie, even though the trailer made it look like that, and, you know, a part of the movie before the big reveal comes also portrayed it as such. But then it turns out into more of a psychological thriller. Now, they could have bounced back from this one. Sure, the twist that comes after about 1/3 or maybe 2/5 of the movie is dumb and kind of makes little sense and creates a lot more problems than it solves. But they were still on the rise again because they have such good actors and they have some pretty good, you know, people behind the scenes doing stuff. So they could have recovered it. I thought for a second, well, maybe this will actually work. But then comes a terribly dumb ending that made me go, ugh, for fuck's sake. What's better than ending a movie on a mystery we didn't know exist instead of the movie's mystery that we are invested in? That's a bait and switch that I thought was very damaging to the movie. This movie isn't bad. It has good ideas and it has good intentions, and there are, you know, a resemblance of a great movie lurking here somewhere, but everything is kind of rushed. The movie is only 84 minutes long, which is very short, and the ending is kind of dumb, even though I guess it makes sense, but it's still a little bit of, that's dumb. The acting is fantastic. I mean, Rachel Weisz and Daniel Craig is fantastic, and Naomi Watts is also very good. Apart from that, there is really nobody who stands out. I mean, sure, Eli Coates is always fun, but he only shows up for a cup of coffee. This movie is just one of these movies that is a bit of a missed opportunity. It isn't bad enough for me to hate it, but it once you've seen it, you're sort of, okay, I'm not going to see this movie again, and I'm not going to dig deeper into this one because there isn't really anything here. It is an okay thriller that has better actors than it deserves and a better director than it deserves, and is muddled by a kind of botched ending. But it isn't bad. It is just a shoulder shrug of a movie. Now, I don't really recommend this movie, but if you're going to see it without seeing a trailer before. Maybe, just maybe, you'll think it is actually good. We'll see. If this movie would have been a Blumhouse production, I would probably give it like 22, 23 points. But since this is not a horror movie, and since this is not a Blumhouse production, and because they have such great actors into this one, I'm gonna have to give this movie 49 points. There are good things lurking around here, but they're not explored enough, and the trailer really kills this movie dead in its tracks. So what are you gonna do? So I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.